Red 2 standing by, all 4 lit and in the green. Welcome back to the Episode 1 Racer side project. As promised, I've done a little bit more research, so we can actually find out a bit about some of the planets we're racing on. So, we'll pick this as our file and we will need to find as our racer, Slide Parameter, wherever he is. There we are, fairly decent stats all round, very good cooling, very good repair, and a small, agile craft. So, obviously we know pretty well about Tatooine. Mon Gaza, there's not really much to say about Mon Gaza if I'm going to be honest. It is apparently, at the time the series is set, second only to Kessel in spice production. Located in its namesake system in the Lambda sector. All of these planets are actually located in their namesake sectors. No surprise. It's a violent, poverty-stricken, fairly desolate, barren and dusty mess of a place in all honesty. Controlled by the Galactic Spice Mining Guild, and pod racing is pretty much the only thing it's really got for it. Ando Prime is an ice planet, as we may have guessed. Home to the Talid, 4-armed mammalian beings with fairly durable and stout bodies who are also expert scavengers and not very fond of outsiders. It's actually a noted location for pod racers, many of them being controlled by the Decilogit clan. That's Jabba's family, actually. There was a human crime lord, Kaelin Ungarson, who attempted to use pod racing for a number of his various illicit activities, but these scandals were the first of many that would ultimately lead to pod racing being outlawed. Interestingly enough, Ando Prime's pod racers were said to be second only to the Boonta Classic in prestige. Aquilaris, as we can probably guess, is aquatic. It was once a resort world, but a lot of those cities are rusting and slowly sinking into the ocean. They have, however, been converted into pod racing tracks. You'll be able to cruise through the Transparasteel tunnels and see some of the ocean life, which, for the most part, has actually been imported from Naboo. Pod racing and a bit of tourism are its main economic factors. Then we have Malastare, which is the homeworld of the Dugs, but has mostly been settled by Grans. Gran invaders, around 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, wound up taking over and effectively controlling the planet, kicking the Dugs off to the western continent. Grand Senators wound up representing Malastare because, well, they had a lot of influence with the Republic anyway, and pod racing and fuel exports are its main economic drivers, but these start to suffer around the time of Episode 1. It's also home to the gigantic Zillo beasts, which were believed wiped out by the Dugs, but one of them was actually in hibernation. Uvo 4, the prison asteroid, the fourth moon of the gas giant Uvo. Powerful energy shields keep the atmosphere in and also make sure prisoners are secured. Powerful weapons are used to keep them under control, but it's also patrolled by extremely strong guards with great physical skills who can deliver lethal damage very quickly. Interestingly enough, according to the Legends canon, admittedly all this is based on the Legends canon, it was on the Uvo 4 prison system that Jango Fett stole the Firespray class patrol ship that would become Slave 1. So there you go. Pod racing also continued here after it was outlawed. And we have 2 more planets we haven't seen. Ordibana and Barunda. Ordibana was a Tibanna gas mining planet, a gas giant that was the site of a battle between the Galactic Republic and the Sith Empire. One that actually turned into a victory for the Sith against the odds. It wasn't very remarkable after that, if we're going to be honest. It mostly faded from the pages of history after pod racing was outlawed. Then we have Barunda, the Jungle World. Well, it's not so much a jungle world, it does have a number of ecosystems. The tracks there are very scenic but very dangerous. A number of ruins connected to the Nazwa civilization scatter the area and are also very close to the capital of Baru. The Trade Federation took an interest in the world and it was believed that the Confederacy of Independent Systems had its leaders hiding out on one of Barunda's moons. This was never confirmed. Interestingly enough, Barunda is probably the only planet with almost human inhabitants. Interesting thing I've just noted, you will actually get visuals of the different planets as you scroll along. As I've said, we don't really need to explain that much about Tatooine, if I'm going to be honest, because we all know what that place is like. So, with my little bit of exposition, out of the way, let's get on to the actual racing. Sunken City is our next track, and this is where we unlock Bullseye Navior. So we will move to winner takes all. We have a bit more money and the AI should be a bit smarter. We'll see how we go. Vehicle upgrades. Rightio, that tells us what the best available parts are. We still have plenty of... So we've got some good grip. Still can't get much in the way of... we can get some pretty good brakes, admittedly. Alright, and good heavens, that was an incredibly blocky Qui-Gon Jinn. So, let's get ready to start our race. Excuse me a tick. Should be a bit better. Oh, we get these little cutscenes anyway. And off we go with a slightly crazy laugh from Slide Parameter. Now, I'm going to be pretty rusty on these ones. Things will be a little bit more challenging, but I'm getting the rhythm back. We start out with a lot of similarity to the first race. You will see quite a bit similar... Whoop. And after a bit of crazy flying, we're holding up to a pretty good lead. You'll note that the track will split into different paths at different places. Alright, quick boost, shift across. Slide Parameter actually seems to handle pretty well with a light and responsive craft. We'll maneuver through a different path into the actual capital, or at least the abandoned capital anyway. That's basically what this is meant to be, a whole lot of old and rusty buildings. We can sneak past those buildings there, but it's best not to. Unless you're really good, which I'm probably not. So far, so good. We will wind up going through a main stadium area around this stretch of the track as well. This is the starting area for the next track, Bumpy's Breakers, which is where we unlock, appropriately enough, Bumpy Ruse. We do at least have a few longer tracks to enjoy, which is pretty good, and so far so good on the smooth handling. That is one thing I really like. This game is actually very easy to pick up and play. It also has fairly good handling, because I'll admit, crappy handling is one of my big bugbears when it comes to racing games. It's probably the reason I have it in for the Mario Kart games, because as far as I'm concerned anyway, and this is just my opinion, the games didn't really have anything constituting a handling stat up until Mario Kart DS, which I do consider a very impressive game. And quite often they did have somewhat janky handling along the way. It was the same problem that F-Zero, the original F-Zero had. Both it and Super Mario Kart had exceptionally floaty handling. We are obviously going to get a bit faster as the game goes on too, once we can buy better parts. However, I do believe that F-Zero X and GX actually... Why have I randomly exploded? Obviously, even the game doesn't like me talking trash about Mario Kart. But yes, I've often felt that Mario Kart games have tended to have really sloppy handling up until about DX. DS, yeah. DX is the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake on the Game Boy Color. Where are the... There we go. And I really can't say just slide on through because that's a very horrible pun and I should feel bad if I make it. Anyway, so I consider the GX actually has fairly good handling for the most part, given that you're driving at such high speeds. That's been... because comparatively I've thought, yes, I can understand why F-Zero has such twitchy handling and why this game can have some twitchy handling and strange physics too. I've never quite been able to forgive the crappy handling in Mario Kart because I've always thought these karts are travelling at, what, 60 kilometers an hour or roundabout at the most? So why do they wind up handling like shopping trolleys or floating all over the place? It was a problem I had with the Super Circuit. I love the game, but the floaty handling based on Super Mario Kart system can be a bit problematic at times. It's a bit better than Super Mario Kart, but it still does have its issues. And there's an Old Republic cruiser going by. And yeah, that's quite understandable that I'd rip my engine off there. Like I said, probably some sort of subtle message from the game to stop talking smack, because I'll admit, I probably do need to get a bit better at some racing games. The deep-seated prejudice against Mario Kart probably could be let go in all fairness. I do admittedly enjoy F-Zero more and really do wish there would be another one, but I have to go with what Nintendo says. Anyway, this has taken a little while, but we are approaching the end of Sunken City. We're into the final lap. Yeah, I wind up just crashing into something randomly. Very quick repairs done, and we're off. We're nearly done, and for some reason I still haven't encountered any opposition. Admittedly, it would be kind of nice too, but this also being a leisurely cruise is also fairly well appreciated. Probably not going to set another lap record. Alright, that's good handling. Let's see if I can sneak past. Yes, you can. You can see that this is a fairly dangerous sport. So many things can go wrong when you're dicing with such high-speed physics. It's why all those things like setting land speed records and the like have to be so carefully regulated, and the technology behind them is pretty sophisticated in all fairness. Anyhow, since most of the races control pretty easily and there's just a difference in stats, some of them will max out a stat relatively early on, but will still have much higher effects, so you can choose them, so you can still see the results. I think with about a plug 8, Mars Guo will wind up hitting a maximum top speed. He is one of the faster racers, but does have his issues here and there. So it's basically pick what you think works best for you, and with 23 different races, there's a very good variety. We have 25 tracks as well, so... Alrighty, around we go, and we're nearly done. And there we go, we've unlocked Bullseye Navior. Now, interesting bit of something I do have to correct from the previous one. I believe I mentioned earlier that Team Topakalis died. According to information from the Legends canon, no, he did not. He somehow managed to survive that and actually continued racing. Howler Gorge is our next one, with one of the only people who is confirmed to have died, Rats Tyrell. Well, he's the only one that is actually confirmed to have died. Neverkey just disappeared and was never seen again, which may as well have died, because Tatooine, basically. I think Bullseye is right there. Sort of looks a bit like an owl with a cat tail. Not very fast, but pretty good handling. Alright. Do we have any new parts? Ah, here's our plug 8. Alrighty, plug 5's not working at full capacity. We'll have to wait until the next race. We have a decent amount of triggers. We could probably... I'm not going to get myself a new air brake. Let's see what he's got in the junkyard. Trijet, quad 44, control shift plate R50. So he's got a damaged plug 8. So we can get this repaired. I was hoping to be able to showcase that at some point. Let's get rolling on our race and just look at that polygonal tail, those gorgeous diamonds connecting everything. The good old days of blocky Nintendo 64 graphics. So, Howler Gorge, Rats Tyrell and his jumbo engines are the track favourite. So we can drive right through the middle there. Now, Bullseye has a very small and very agile racer, and you can already see we're going through a different path. Now, this was a lot of fun when my brother and I got it way back when. We were pretty much into Star Wars. Well, I think the earliest memories I've got are Shadows of the Empire on the Nintendo 64. Well done, Bullseye. Obviously, Bullseye failed to hit the target there. So, we'll maneuver our way a bit more carefully than that. And Shadows of the Empire was really the first Star Wars experience we had. We got that on the... Oh, hello, Ruts Tyrell is ahead of us. Let's change that. We've got some... fairly tight turns to go around. Hit the boost! And fly! And then drop like a rock. Check out the aerodynamics on that. So we can slip down here and avoid going through some admittedly difficult gates. You'll have to rotate the pod racer. Well, everything's pretty good for us, but yes, Shadows of the Empire has been a favourite part of the Star Wars universe for both of us for a very long time. Dash Rendar is a very important character to both of us, and I'm pretty sure we both hope that Shadows of the Empire does appear in the new canon. The scene where the Outrider takes off from Mos Eisley being included in the special edition, at the very least makes the Outrider canon. Now we can slip through the tunnel here, which I failed to do again. So let's just hit the hammer and go on the normal route. And, well, it's also shown in, I believe, in the tie-in novelization for Solo, that Dash is at least mentioned. So it's entirely possible he may show up. After all, we have seen Black Sun mentioned. We have seen Black Sun appear, I think it's during Rebels? But Prince Shizor himself has not yet appeared. So we'll have to see what's done with that. And with the television series format, I really do think they could properly adapt Shadows of the Empire. Alrighty, Bullseye handles very nicely. Whoa. Not very durable, though. Let's get the repairs done and go the regular way. So, since we have a fairly small and nimble pod racer, we should be able to fit through that. We can actually fit through that gap without turning on our side. I'm surprised I actually threaded that needle because, well, I drove into ice earlier. Yes, a lot of fond memories of Shadows of the Empire and a lot of fond memories of this, because this was probably our easiest to play Star Wars game on account of the fact it was multiplayer. I'm rusty as hell on Shadows of the Empire, but I'd love to play it again sometime. So let's... Alright, we're not going in there. That's one rough tent. I guess you could say that was hostile intent. Wow, the response was colder than this planet. Anyway, bad puns aside, we have picked up quite a lot of elements of the Star Wars series from just watching, reading, things like that over time. We still do enjoy what is considered the currently established canon, and we probably need to do a bit more research into that. I thought the tunnel was a bit earlier. But we will always wind up having soft spots for the Legends continuity because of everything it's brought us. It is essentially what we grew up with. We have a lot of fondness for it, and we'll always respect it. I mean, I'm quite prepared to consider a number of elements from Legends, at least personal canon anyway. Like all of the exploits of Wedge Antilles. Don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun seeing the new canon, and I'm pretty happy that Wedge at least got to come back to fight the good fight, and I'm dead again. Got to come back and fight the good fight at the end of the Rise of Skywalker, but I will always have a considerable amount of respect for Wedge Antilles of the X-Wing series. Probably my favourite books outside of Shadows of the Empire and the James Bond series. I do read a lot, but those books hold a special place in my heart. Always will. Not sure if I've phrased all this as well as I could have, but I do have a hell of a lot of respect for all this. And there are some elements of the Legends canon that are just outright fun. Moments where they're just not quite taking themselves entirely seriously on purpose. And... goal. There we go. Rats Tyrell is ours. And as you can see, those are very big engines. So, Doug Darby, where Elan Mack, who is kind of a bit of a joke, is the track favourite. He's actually the son of a crime boss whose father was assassinated by Oldar Beto. Mack's actual name is Cam Nail, very imaginative, disguise yourself by inverting your name, and he's trying to get revenge on Oldar Beto. So, let's change our vehicle. We're looking for Rats Tyrell. There we go. Oh dear, he's got the I suppose with those... So we're going to need that plug 8 repaired. Quad 32 PCX injector. Suppose that's a pretty good deal. We haven't upgraded the acceleration in a while.
You'll not find a better deal anywhere, I think, huh?
So, rotary. Alright, so we've got a few slightly better parts. Let's get going on our next race and see how Rats Tyrell actually... Well, they're working away on the engines. Vehicle upgrades. So, our repulsor grip isn't doing too well. They'll have to repair these ones. They'll hopefully repair these ones next. So everything else is running at pretty much full efficiency. This is kind of an interesting setup. I wish you could sort of tell your... I wish you could tell your pit droids what to repair. Anyway, let's get our race started. So a very blocky cruiser thing disappears. And off we go. Very big hairpin, and geez, he's handling like a shopping trolley there, rats. So already not doing too well, but I did want a challenge. Let's see how well we hold up. So some obstacles will actually start collapsing. That wasn't very bright on my part. How'd I manage to get stuck up there? Oh well, if there's anybody who knows about dying in humiliating accidents, it's Rats Tyrell. According to Legends canon, the Laguna Caves in which he crashed did not really give him much hope of being rescued because there was a crate dragon living in there. I'm really gonna have to... Not really very many spots to turn up the boosters. Thankfully, there's a good straightaway here. We can... Oh, wrong button. That turn is killing me. Oof. Bad acceleration and that horrible. Don't know all the best spots to boost, and those massive engines which were a problem for him in the Boonta Classic have proved a problem for me now. And somebody ran into me and I died. Yeah, this is not going well. I think I might have to restart. Either that or I've got to hit the brakes. Just sliding won't be enough. Yeah, brakes will have to do. But I don't think we're getting out of this one. That's a rock. Yeah. I don't think I was getting out of that one easily. So, Rats Tyrell's acceleration is not very good. Right, so remember, collapsing rock. I think I hit the rock each time. Or that one. So we'll also have to hit the brakes when we get to the chicane. Now you might remember that I've mentioned I usually don't go for the brakes. So it's a bit of a learning experience, admittedly. Some of the tracks, some races will not do particularly well at, but that happens.
It's a new black record.
Better get that fixed. And can I actually avoid hitting this rock up here? Yes, this time I will. Gotta pay attention to your surroundings. As I said, I suppose it's ironic that Rats Tyrell is the one who winds up crashing like that. There we go. This is much smoother now that I've actually remembered that air brakes are a fairly useful thing. A few narrow confines that really don't help given our big engines, but that's part of the challenge. Shake out the rust a bit. And we can really hit and put the hammer down here.
It's a new black record.
That was smooth, but I think we might need a little patching up. There we go. It does only repair to a certain point as far as I know, but we will keep buying our repair equipment. Whoops, this side. We can go over that hill, it's worth noting. I just haven't been taking any shortcuts. Mostly trying to remember the track. Whoops. Alright, we're good. We've got a bit of smoke coming out of one engine, but that's okay. We've still got both of them working. It's just a little damage. It's still good. It's still good. Let's boost to the finish line. And we got a lap record. Oh yeah, that's right. We don't get a special cutscene because Elan Mac is one of our default races. So here is the first Ordibana track, Scrapper's Run. Alright, so we're getting our parts back in action again. It's interesting to see how everything gets modified, and note that he has much better speed now. But we're changing our character. Let's see, where is he? Because he was the track favourite, we're going with Elan Mac, who is kind of a dud. Good top speed, though. What else have we got?
Come back, huh? Something else? You want
Well, that's not too bad.
Mind tricks don't work on me.
Okay, and I'm not exactly sure what that's supposed to be, but it looks like he's got extremely severe head injuries. Alright, I'm not going to waste my triggers just now. Let's get going on our race.
The wind is howling here at the abandoned gas mines of Port Ibana. Or is that the crowd? These strap gangs sure love a good pod race, and we have got one for you today.
Alright. Let's see how we go. Quite a picturesque area. Don't fall off, though. Admittedly, that was one of the things Chief Scrapper Death Row Glock absolutely loved. The screams of people falling to their demise, as well as seeing pods flying through the sky. This has gone on good. I was wondering when that was going to finish. And here we are. Let's see. All right. Let's get cruising. As far as I remember, it should be a fairly straightforward track where you can hit the boosters pretty well. You can't, unfortunately, slide up the sides of the pipeline. And I always manage to do that. We've got company. Damn it, I crashed into Wan Sandage as I passed him. Alright, Elan Mac, come on. Let's see what you got. That's a wall. Definitely need some quick reflexes. This bit's fairly narrow and winding, but we got a straightaway. Cruising back into the starting area. So, Wan Sandage is slightly slower than a guy who blew up twice. Oh well. We're pushing really hot and fast now. Brakes. Still blew up. Oh well, these things happen. Of course, blowing up is just a very minor concern. But I will need some pretty good handling and skills if I am going to wind up doing Abyss, the second track in this area, and it's an invitational one. Because it's a real pain in the backside, and if you fall off, you actually wind up in a massive positional disadvantage. So for some reason, it was the most irritating one for me.
It's a new flat record.
Alrighty, let's go. Let's not go. Or more accurately, let's go up in flames. Obviously, Elan Mac is not the most durable pod racer going around. What could possibly... Alright. Coming out of the tunnel, hit the brakes, don't hit the walls. So, brakes. We do have some people hot on our tail because Elan Mac isn't very good. But there are lots of opportunities to use the boost. And he sounds kind of funny too. So we've established a fairly decent lead. I believe the courses in this are all different areas. Admittedly, I always wondered why Death Row's Revenge was called so until I did my little bit of research. I actually got better each time. Oh well, props to you, Elan Mac. And we have unlocked Wan Sandwich. Childishly called One Sandwich when we were kids. So here's part of the Devlik species, fairly short-lived. Their average lifespan is usually about 9 to 10 years. They have incredible senses of direction on their home planet of Ordramada, but outside of that they tend to be a bit shonky. Alright, so Zuga Challenge. This is where we challenge Bowls Roar, who is actually a singer of some kind, Glimmick or something like that. I've forgotten exactly what the style is. So we'll have to find Wan Sandwich. Oh, there he is. So, pretty good traction. Cooling and repair, not great. Good brakes. What sort of parts can we get?
You'll not find a better deal anywhere, I think, huh? Have you seen my
Brakes are generally pretty good.
something else?
Rightio. You know what? Let's just go straight into this one.
They look around, they no buy. Why nobody buy?
Back on Mont Gaza, we will have to deal with that mining equipment. Surprisingly deep voice. But then again, I suppose every species is different. Alright, so let's just familiarise ourselves with the course a little bit. Splits around somewhat, avoid those mining machines and don't go too far off track. It's quite a good test. Interestingly enough, it stated that Bowler's Raw bet Ben Quaternero's 5 million pegats that he wouldn't be brave enough to enter a pod race. Quaterneros actually steeled himself and entered the Boonta Eve Classic. That's some very good calling. Bowler's Raw did wind up paying the bet. He was left a bit embarrassed, but did ultimately congratulate Ben Quaterneros. That said, Quaterneros technically just had to enter the race. The fact his pod blew up was was ultimately, luckily for him, irrelevant. And you might recognise some of this. We're travelling through a bit of Spice Mine Run. That little sense of continuity is quite nice, but I think we go a different way in the Spice Mines. Actually, we don't even get to the Spice Mines. I thought I wasn't going to make that for a minute. Alright, well this one holds up pretty well, all things considered. We can get a nice long boost with this guy. Now there is one of those mining machines there. Nearly crashed into it. But so far, pretty smooth run. First lap, pretty good. Interestingly enough, I think the Boonta Classic is actually shown to have fairly long laps. That was stupid. Fairly long laps in the movie. Because I think it's around about 16 minutes or so is the time for victory. Can't exactly remember, but Clegg Holdfast winds up editing things with the help of his connections at Pod Racing Quarterly. He is one of the most noted journalists on the sport. He wound up getting taken out by Sebulba and was severely injured. It is directly stated he was taken out by Sebulba's flamethrower, but managed to manipulate history so that he was credited with 7th place and a time of about 30 minutes. So we're not exactly sure how long all these tracks go, and some of the longer ones probably are a bit more realistic. This one still is at least pretty smooth running. Assuming I don't just crash into a wall as soon as I've said that. You'd really think I'd learn not to tempt fate. Alrighty. Cruise on steadily and surely. And we should be able to make it through these tunnels with ease. I admit I'm not as familiar with the soundtrack of the prequel films, so not sure where all the tracks come in. I know bits and pieces. And I do remember that the original final lap music for Autobahn was the music used during the fight in the hangar bay when our heroes wind up getting to the Queen's personal starship. Other than that, not entirely sure. That tends to happen. The worst part is that I saw it coming, tried to stop, and, well, let's be honest, it's kind of difficult. You do need very good brakes when you're flirting with physics like this. But, of course, since it was probably going to be played by a lot of kids, they wound up, I'd say, relaxing things so that if you just blew up, you kept going. Let me sneak around here. Whoa! Good thing I hit the anchors in time there, and probably the fact I turned away from the caterpillar treads wound up stopping me. Yeah, really not much to say about Mon Gaza. I did do a bit of research, but there really isn't that much to it. Well, I suppose sort of research in inverted commas in all fairness, it should be just looking up information. Because there is actually a difference between doing your research and doing that. If we're being extremely strict, which I can be because I do technically have a professional editing degree, so I'm allowed to be pedantic. It was probably my excuse to actually use the skills that made me an insufferable jerk that no one liked. Maybe I'm a bit too hard on myself saying that, but I have always been fairly pedantic when it comes to English. I'll admit I'm a bit lax with some things sometimes, but I always want to make sure that people present themselves and their work as well as possible. I tend to pick things up partly out of irritation because I'm not always fond on a lot of slang terms, but I also do it to try and help people present their work as well as they can. Okay. There is a lot of kindness and support at the heart of it all. It's just that I suppose the way my personality is that I can be very direct with things like that. I don't always convey it as easily as I'd like to. Drop the nose through there. Randomly blow up. And I still got a lap record. And there is Bolas Rua's Pod Racer. It's a bit old and outdated, but it does the job. I believe it's one of the faster pods going around. Good heavens, we kind of thrashed the competition there. So, Baru Coast, which is where we unlock my favourite racer, Never Key. So, let's find Bolas Rua on our list. There we are, very fast. Decent to meh stats otherwise.
You come back, huh?
Block 5, oh man. And our plug 8's in horrible condition. But look at how fast he is still with a plug 8 in that horrid condition. Probably better start saving up in all fairness. Block 6. Can't afford it. Geez, our repulsor grip's doing terribly. So we'll probably get those repaired later on. So it's mostly our grip and our top speed that's suffering at the moment. Brakes aren't doing too well, but that's okay. Well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Let's plow on bravely but stupidly. Fairly impressive for early CGI.
Here we are, high above Burunda, in the capital city of Mayanitsa.
All right.
Our host, the eminent high priestess, Maya Faya, has taken her place at the balcony.
Alright, so there's obviously some sort of Mesoamerican theming going on with them, as we can see by our amazingly blocky statues. And look at that very dodgy sprite work on the waves.
The current record holder for this chapter is Neva Key.
Alright. Let's see how we go. Don't slide too much. Bit of damage early on, but I think we should be alright. So you might actually see some Trade Federation ships around here. Try not to fall off the edge. Sorry, buddy. There are several shortcuts we can find along the way. Oh, that actually went better than I expected. Hit the boosters again. There are shortcuts through this area. Whoa, whoa, I think I nearly turned my pod upside down. Whoa, I hope this... Oh well, I died. I was going to say, I hope it's not too disorienting for everyone. We can sneak through here, get a little bit of a shortcut. These tracks are often some of the more difficult ones because they have a lot of twists and turns which will require your brakes. Or very good handling. Or very good handling and brakes. That's a wall. Oh, well, looks like we've got the pack catching up to us. Get in boosts where we can, basically. And then go through our Monaco-like section on the streets. Whoa. Taking a bit of damage there. Oh well, we'll just have to be a bit more reckless and plow on bravely. Sliding isn't very good. So I think if we get to warning, those bits of our engine can wind up making us explode. Repairs can be a good substitute for brakes. So left engine is looking a bit shoddy. Boost! And Ripper. Sometimes you gotta push the boundaries. Sometimes I've just got to do one of those things that's just like, I really, really shouldn't be doing this, but I'm just going to do it anyway because it looks cool. I mean, in a racing game where death is cheap, you can get away with it. Put a bit of distance in by cruising along the coast. And then just explode. Okay, so sliding around the corners wasn't the answer. Very unusual things tend to happen with physics in this game. So we can sneak through these at least, get ourselves a little bit of an advantage. Once we get through this twisty-turny track, we will have my favourite racer. Maybe I need to actually start turning the thing on its side. No, that doesn't really help with the turning. We might be able to get some boost in. It's all about careful positioning on this track, making sure you get the right locations to put the hammer down and go full on. And it certainly helps that you've got Duel of the Fates playing in the background. Probably might need to use the brakes a little bit more. A lot of damage on the left engine. Still. Probably overcorrecting a little bit. Alright. Well, I tried to skip off. Once again, we'll hit those boosters and we will make it through the beach. Alright, so the water is not actually considered part of the track. Still got a pretty strong lead. Oh well, we'll just have to hit the brakes. A little bit of time on the brakes is preferable to blowing up because we can at least use the accelerator to get back in action. That's tempting fate if I ever saw it. I really should not have done that. Alright, almost there, almost there. We've got one last race on Aquilaris after this one. And then we can take on the next invitational track. Alright, looks... Oh crap, we got a few people closing in on us. A few stupid mistakes are not going to cost me. Not right now, anyway. I will make it across the line even if I blow up. And there we go. Some admittedly shoddy driving on my part, but we got there. And we unlocked Never Key, who has the very unique pod joined at the front. No energy couplings. He's seen as a bit of a lunatic by some people. But we're up to Bumpy's breakers. A fairly winding track, which could be a bit problematic.
Back again, huh?
So we still don't have enough of that. What about our turn? We need to go this way. Our turning. That's going to be pretty important. What's the condition of our... Alright, so that still needs a lot of repair.
Not find a better deal anywhere, I think, huh? Tulpa bunky dunko.
So we can actually get a bit of money by downgrading certain things too, which can help out somewhere along the way.
That's pretty good, no doubts there, huh?
Alright, so let's change our vehicle. And there's Neverkey, who does actually have pretty good stats, but his top speed is not really great under most circumstances. Of course, we do have that fairly damaged plug part. Well, gonna back my man. Let's go. And there we are. We are off in our brand new craft. It seems to handle pretty well. Hopefully we get some good repairs onto our top speed. Now this does have a fair few, as I said, a fair few twists and turns and even some secret paths. But we should be alright for... I was going to say we should be alright for turning and then I crashed into a wall. I really am tempting the force with some of these observations. I really need to be a bit smarter. Apply a little bit of brake and we should be good to go. Alrighty. So yes, we can find secret tunnels around this area, but I find it easier to stick to the track. Some of those bits of the track will wind up collapsing, so be careful. Whoa, I had a vision of myself crashing into the wall. Don't quite want that to happen. Alright, so it's going pretty smoothly. We will go into some familiar areas as well. So you will recognise this bit from Sunken City. It is quite clever how everything winds up meshing together. But of course things would be just that little bit different. And as for now, it's just a very smooth cruise. With a wall. We can go up those, but sometimes the physics can get a little bit wonky, so I'm going to be careful. Back into the stadium and we're ready to get started on our second lap. So we've seen that Republic cruiser just flying around to this track a fair bit, not entirely sure why. It's the ship we saw at the start of the Phantom Menace that was destroyed on board the Trade Federation vessel. And it kind of makes you wonder why they did that, because... well, I guess they're pretty stupid for thinking they could actually take on a couple of Jedi. But blowing up a Republic vessel surely would have wound up getting them in a lot of trouble. The Jedi probably would have sensed its destruction and they'd have been able to tell the Republic that the Trade Federation flat out attempted to kill them. It's just a little unfortunate that things went the way they did, but you seriously do have to wonder if the Trade Federation is just a little bit stupid. They do seem to be getting themselves in over their head. See, it is much better using the air brakes sometimes. So yeah, I think there's a bit of track down there. Is it this bit that breaks away? Yeah, back there. So yeah, actually piloting at the front of the engines is noted to be a bit dangerous and a bit stupid. Because if something goes wrong, you are definitely not going to have a chance to survive. I mean, in all fairness, Mars Guo wound up surviving the crash inflicted on him by Sebulba. Somehow. But he didn't really get himself involved in pod racing for quite some time, if again. It is kind of interesting reading up and seeing what happened to all these different characters. And just following on from some of the ideas in the movie. Just sort of goes to show how amazingly vast the world of Star Wars is and all the creative things you can do with it. Alright, let's head up here. We don't have any strange crashes. But we had probably better get that part of the engine repaired. Almost done. Some of these races are a bit of a slog and I still haven't had as much of a challenge. I mean, admittedly, I screwed up by not playing particularly well on Doug Derby, which my brother and I constantly called Dud Derby on account of Ilan Mac being terrible. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. But overall, if you get a pretty good run and you can apply the boosters intelligently, things will go very, very smoothly for you. The AI doesn't use its boosters. Although it is interesting to note, even though you can use Sebulba's flamethrower, double tapping R to taunt, you will not actually get to set other racers on fire with it. It is purely cosmetic, which is kind of disappointing. I mean, you've done all that work to get him, you probably should be able to. But then again, it might give him a bit of an unfair advantage. Maybe you can set human-controlled races on fire, I'm not sure. Whoa, got ourselves a bit of air. And we'll hit the boost through here. That part of the track has crumbled. And it's just pretty smooth cruising. Now let's see if I can actually hit the wall. Nearly. Anyway, I've always liked Neverkey because he just seems to have very, very good hand... That was my fault. That wasn't Neverkey's fault. He does seem to have very, very good handling and plays quite smoothly. I just do stupid things on occasion, as you have probably guessed. There we are. And just a matter of cruising to the finish. Where are our opponents? We have a bit of a lead. Whoops. This one can be a little bit confusing at times, but if you know what you're doing, all good. Anyway, we are into the final stretch. There we go, just squeaked in for the lap record. And after that fairly long race, oh dear, I've just realised that if I'm continuing with this theme, I'm going to have to use Bumpy Ruse on Abyss. This is gonna suck.
The fastest pod racer in the galaxy.
So, Neverkey probably can't see over the platform either. So we have Bumpy Ruse there. And who is in third place? So there's whatever species Bumpy Ruse is, and Ilan Mac. So for some reason we wind up going all the way back to Tatooine again for the celebration. Okay, Abyss. This is probably going to take me a very long time. Alright. Let's see how our... That plug 8 is not holding up well. Really wish the pit droids would get to work on it.
Change your mind.
See what we got in the junkyard.
They come here, they look around.
It's only a plug 5.
Why nobody buys?
Alright. Well, in keeping with the little challenge, where is Bumpy Ruse? There we go. Okay. How are we going to fare? So, I will probably wind up cutting a bit, because if you fall off the edge of the top section, you're screwed. So we'll see how we go.
The current record holder for this tap is Ozzy Verenta.
Already off. So, allow me to demonstrate how bad it is. I'm putting the boosters on. I don't think I'm behind anyone else. But because of where we wind up going, we have to go the long way around. And I've fallen through the track. So, see, I've sunk... Because I wound up falling off, I've sunk... Oh, and... So I've fallen off twice. Is he just clipping through the edges or something? I mean, I know physics gets... Oh, good God. Let's try that again, shall we? I mean, I said this is gonna suck. I didn't realize exactly how much. Oh, geez, the brakes are not helping. That sounded like he was sneezing. So, if you fall off, you wind up dropping behind the pack because you have to go the long way round. And we've already seen that Bumpy Roo seems to defy physics at will by just clipping through the barriers. And it's just blown up. And he's clipped through... I'm not even trying to do that. It's just happening. I don't think I have any words for this. So you have to stay on that top section or else you have absolutely no chance of winning, which is admittedly a bit cruel. Oh wait, that's... This level is easily the worst in the entire game. Bumpy Roo seems to have absolutely no concept of hit detection. Let's see if I can actually stay on that top. Hit the... This is going to be a while. Alright, so far so good. No boosting, no stupid stunts. Now, assuming Bumpy doesn't defy the laws of physics again, we should be fine. Don't have access to restore points, and if I fall off, I'm in a lot of trouble. Oh, that's another long way round. So I'll have to remember we've got that as a little shortcut. This bit, it doesn't matter if we drive off the edge. There's so many little shortcuts. Whoa, oh jeez. Alright, come on, keep going, Bumpy. We need to just hold on for a little bit more. I'll need to start hitting the anchors. And we fell off! Handles like a shopping cart. But yeah, the fact that if you fall off, you're screwed, and most of the races do not have particularly good handling is just... It's just unfair. You might as well restart, basically. Stop clipping through the track, for the love of God! All you can do is sneeze, god damn it! Somebody else blew up, and see, we fall off, we're punished by winding up in bloody last place. So I think we can actually do it. Right, now that I know that's there... Right, so I'm going to need somebody who's a bit more agile because Bumpy Rouge cannot handle this. I mean, I know it's really, like, it's a pain in the ass, but his braking doesn't seem to be good enough, and at least I think I've hit the anchors in time. Right, well, we need somebody who's at least got better turning. I'm going with my man. What's,
Only the best parts you'll find here in my shop, huh?
So I think we've got the best... We've got the best in the way of handling. If only I had that block... If only I had enough to buy that block 5.
Outlanders, they come here, how do they find me? They come here, mess up my stuff.
Alright, this is going to be a very long time. And then I just randomly blew up. Oh, Jesus. Wait. Oh, come on. This is so full of little shortcuts and... Oh, come on. So we've got the... Just got to hit the boost. Where the hell is... Oh. I'm not even doing that badly. Where the hell is Bozzy Baranta? Oh. How is he that far ahead? This one sucks. This one just sucks. How am I only in fourth? Wonderful. Take it easy. Hit the anchors. Randomly explode and oh Jesus. Just because I randomly exploded, the game throws me down on the bottom track. This is so skewed against you. It's not funny. This is easily the worst track in the entire game. This is Mario Kart level of... But yeah, that one was not my fault. Just because I randomly blew up. For no fault of my own, I just spontaneously combusted and the game threw me down on the bottom track. We're through! Alright. I tempted fate. You'll be laughing on the other side of your face, Bozzy Baranta. Little bit of boost. I'm on with the force. The force is with me. I cannot. Yes! That track sucks! That track is a friggin' nightmare! And all for a guy I'm pretty sure looks like a rejected Muppet. Where are you? It's got no brakes, which makes you wonder how he actually stays on. Fairly decent stats. Let's at least check our vehicle, see what it's like. Oh, the brakes got a big workout.
Change your mind.
At long last.
Betting heavily on Sebulba. He always wins.
Well, we'll bankrupt ourselves if we wind up buying those brakes.
Always wins. You banna pihota, Mindia, huh? They come here, they look around, they no buy. Why nobody buy?
So, we finally got that frustrating nightmare over, and that's going to end it for now. Next time, we will be traveling through the galactic pod racing circuit where we'll be putting Bozzy Baranta to work. Thank you very much for joining me. Until next time, this is Red 2 returning to base. May the Force be with you.